Hi, I'm a software engineer that decided to make a game. Ever since I can remember, my passion was games. Here's a picture of me of when I was around 2 years old playing games on my Commodore 64. I remember I would always have friends and neighbors come over and we would play all kinds of games. My favorite game was Bubble Bubble. I always had this dream in the back of my head that one day I will make my own game. Lately, I've been feeling a bit burned out. Actually, I've been burned out for a long time now, and I was looking for some kind of an escape. I know a complete escape isn't possible with bills and responsibilities always around, but I figured learning a few new skills wouldn't hurt. So I decided to embark on this journey to make my so-called dream game. I have no prior game dev experience, neither do I have any knowledge in pixel art, but I'm super stoked and willing to learn. I do have over a decade of knowledge with web dev, and I have a musical background with experience in music production, which I think may come in handy while I develop my game. I have picked up a not so well-known engine called Excalibur. Yes, I could have gone with Godot or Unity or something fancy like Unreal, but I chose this engine because it is tailored at making web-based games, and because I know it would be a challenge for me since the engine has not even hit version 1 yet. But I've been loving the developer experience so far, and the team behind Excalibur are some wonderful people. This engine deserves a lot more love. Since this engine has not hit version 1 yet, I was hoping that this will force me to come up with my own solutions for the problems that I would face. I decided to document this journey on this YouTube channel. Firstly, for myself, I wanted to see how far I can get in a year and if my expectations will be met. And secondly, I hope to bring some new entertainment to you all. Because to be honest, I'm tired from the daily grind. I have an ever-growing backlog of tasks, but I've already delivered some functionalities like control mappings and gamepad support, as well as 3 animations for the main character and a few assets made with Sprite. Alright, so how it all began. The first engine that I chose was Phaser, and man, diving into pixel art for the first time, I was clueless. My first character was all blurry, and I could not figure out why. Turns out, most of these engines have a secret feature. In Phaser, you can turn this feature called pixel art to true, and voila! Your character is no longer blurry. There are similar features in Excalibur as well. What these toggles essentially do is set the rendering on the canvas to pixelated. But then I got into a lot of issues with jittery assets. I'll play some videos here so you can see those problems. So this right here is in Phaser, and as you can see there's these wavy lines on the bookshelf and on the eye and on the cupboard. If you look closely, you should be able to see it. I actually found this to be quite difficult to kind of solve in Phaser. It was just not working for me. This again is Phaser, and as you can see here, the jittery effect is noticeable a lot, and it even distorts some of the sprites that I have here. And here's another kind of video where you can see the effect happening a lot more. And then again, I was able to fix this with messing around with round pixels on the camera itself. Then again, I wasn't really happy with the results. In my next section here, I have Godot, and as you can see, Godot kind of handled this a little bit different. You can still obviously feel the jittery effect. There's no running away from that unless you kind of add your own shaders and whatnot. But I think it handles it a lot better than what I have experienced in Phaser, but I was just not ready to go with Godot at this point. These issues are not the reason why I switched from Phaser to Excalibur. Like I said in the beginning, I wanted a bit more challenge. And also after trying Godot, I realized that it would take me a lot longer until I feel comfortable with the engine to produce something enjoyable. With these web engines, I felt like I can add a lot more of my own spice into the mix. Now when it comes to jitteriness, this is actually a well-known phenomenon in the pixel art area, especially when moving the camera around. This basically boils down to scaling, sub-pixel rendering, and what sizes and aspect ratios you want your game to support. Essentially, you need to make sure you have a proper scaling by the integer factor. Sometimes scaling your assets and textures by the power of 2, for example 32 by 32 goes to 64 by 64, and so on and so forth. This can help iron out some of those issues. Some people use custom shaders for the assets, basically making their outline a little bit blurry so that the jittery effect is not that noticeable. There are many ways to handle this, but everyone has their own approach. Regarding the progress with the game, I've been working on a controller class to enable control mappings and support for both keyboard and controller input simultaneously. I wanted to make the game more accessible, allowing users to remap controls and use a controller if they wanted to. However, to make this a fully functional feature, I still need to refine my UI library. Right now, I'm using a generic controller on my phone. And yes, I do plan to release a mobile version eventually. That's why I included a virtual joystick option. However, it's not my main priority at the moment, as breaking into the mobile market with this type of game seems quite challenging. Over the past few weeks, I've been taking walks in the park to clear my mind a bit. I also spent some time visiting animals with my family, which has been a nice break from my usual routine. In addition, I decided to start making healthier sweets each month, well, as healthy as they can be. By that I mean using less sugar. This week I went with peanut butter, banana and oat cookies. They might not look the best, but they do taste good. I've also spent a lot of time in Sprite. I created a couple of scripts for quick color changes, and they are especially useful for shading. If you are into Sprite, you can download them on my website or on my GitHub page. They are completely free. My ambitions are big. I'm not really sure if I can rely on my drawing skills entirely for this game, but I do have some option for help, and I might reach for that at some point in the future. I managed to create a somewhat decent character and a few animations. I think this still needs a lot of work, but for version 0.1, I think I like it. In the upcoming weeks, I plan to spend some time on designing my tiles and possibly creating a simple tile map so I can start playing around with the game mechanics. There's a lot of work that needs to be done here, but that is all for this first devlog. Follow for more, and I'll see you in the next one.